Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 24 is officially here. This is the breakdown and review. So Chapter 24 starts off with a flashback to Boruto and Kawaki's last meeting over on the Great Stone Faces, where Boruto basically tells them that like, hey, I need you to tell Amado to remove your limiters and stuff like that. You remember that? So this is a flashback to that conversation. And Boruto is essentially telling Kawaki about what's going to happen over in the Sand Village or near the Sand Village and whatnot. That they're going to be on a mission, they're going to be some big fight, and that if worse comes to worse, Boruto's going to have to get in there, and Kawaki's going to have to fight off Jura so that way Boruto can teleport them away. So he explains to Kawaki the mission ahead, and then he tells him about his flying Raijin and how he plans to get him out of there with the medal and stuff. So then we cut to the last panel in the last chapter with Kawaki going up against Jura, and we see Jura versus Kawaki, and we get some pretty cool moments. We see Kawaki using his shrinking ability, we see him use the Sukuna Hikuna to drop like those big blocks, like those huge blocks, and we see Jura like destroy one of them kind of, and then he dodges and they keep on fighting. We see Kawaki using like that rod to fight and hurt and destroy Jura, and he injures him. He puts on a good fight. It's a really good show. And then Boruto kind of flies away so that he can focus on his flying Raijin, so he can focus on teleporting to where everybody else is. And we see Kawaki just going crazier and crazier and crazier fighting against Jura. And then we kind of see Kawaki's hand glow, or the karma glow. Don't know, but that's like a big thing. And then finally, we see that Kawaki is like injured Jura enough to like push him against a rock, and then everything's going well. And then we cut over to Sumire and Amado looking through Kawaki's eye. They're watching the fight as it's going on, and Sumire's impressed. She's like, wow, he's strong enough to defeat Jura. This could really happen. And Amado has to reassure her that like, no, that's not going to work. And then Jura, while sitting down, he's like injured and beaten. He's kind of like, Kawaki's walking towards him in like in a cool way. And then Jura pulls out a book and starts reading. He's like, Kawaki, you got a lot stronger. And then he starts talking about, Himawari also got stronger too. And that was because I injured Inojin. And then Sarada also got stronger. It's all connecting. It's all becoming a piece of the puzzle. And it's kind of like, he's talking to Kawaki about his theory about love, what he's working on, kind of his idea about it, how it's all connected to each other. And he's like, I'm researching love and what it is that it does to people. And he thinks that it's a flaw of people, but at the same time, it also wields like extraordinary power, huge amounts of strength. You know what I mean? So it's a negative and a positive. He sees it as like a powerful evolution of people, of human beings, and he's seen it with Himawari and he's seen it with Sarada. So he's kind of like, whoa, how can I understand this some more? And so he's like, what's your opinion about love, Kawaki? What do you think? And then Kawaki walks up to him and is like, you talk too much. And then he blasts him. He tries to blast him anyways. And we see like a kind of vine or a branch pop out in the smoke. And we see Jura getting pulled over to it and held up by it. And Jura has to tell Kawaki like, whoa, calm down. Let's not get ahead of ourselves now, Kawaki. I just want to talk. And we see Jura heal himself with the vines or with the branches and whatnot. And so then we see Jura make like a throne out of the branches. And he's like, I'm just a little surprised myself that you decided to step in and help Boruto the way that you did. The only person I can think of that you really care about or want to protect is Naruto Uzumaki. Now, I don't know how he knows this or where he got this idea from. Maybe it's just like, he's Uzumaki Kawaki, so he's like, of course he would want to protect his father, but whatever. He's just kind of like, you know what? I know that you want to protect him. And then he's like, which means I visited the village to see if he was there, and imagine my surprise when everybody said he was dead. And then he looks in Kawaki's eye and he's like, I knew it. He's alive, isn't he? I knew it. You're such a bad liar, Kawaki. And then Kawaki's kind of like, damn it, like he knows that Naruto's alive. And Jura tells Kawaki that like, I want to eat him. I want to consume him. I want to devour him. Because Naruto had a connection with all of the other nine-tailed beasts, and that required love to do so. And if I devour him, I might understand love a little bit more, I want to consume Naruto Uzumaki for that reason, to understand love better. And Kawaki's just like, ugh. He's like about to fight Jura again. He walks up towards him, and then Boruto flies down. And he's like, Kawaki, good news. Sorry it took so long, but I'm ready. I'm ready to teleport over to them. And then Jura's kind of like, darn it. He's like, man, I hate to see this end so soon, but his flying Raijin will teleport you out of here, won't it? Well, I guess that's it for today then. Anyways, it was really good to see you guys. And Kawaki is kind of like, hold on, Jura, I don't care anything about love, and I really don't care about you all that much. But I will give you this. You figured out, or were able to deduce, that Naruto was still alive, and that you're going after him because of love. That's a pretty smart feat. That's not easy to look past, you know what I mean? But I promise you this as well. I swear it. I will kill you. And then Jura is like, how amusing. This is great. Great banter. And so Kawaki and Boruto get ready to go and teleport. And Jura's kind of like, we should do this again sometime. Let's talk some more in the future. And then Kawaki's walking away with Boruto. And then we cut to a panel of him flipping Jura off. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. That's just a great shot. That's a great panel that they drew. I'm happy with that. And then we cut over to Delta and Konohamaru and Mitsuki and Sarada as they gather around the metal symbol that Boruto gave Kawaki. Delta had it and she brought it over to them. She placed it on the floor and now Boruto's going to teleport over to them. And Delta explains to them that it's a lot harder for Boruto to perceive it if somebody's holding it, so she put it on the ground. And she tells Konohamaru and everybody else, like, you might want to step back because if they teleport over here, they could step on you and that's not going to be a good thing. And then Boruto and Kawaki teleport over to them, and Kawaki steps on Konohamaru's face. And then Kawaki sees like Konohamaru on the floor, like he got stepped on. And then Kawaki's like, what the heck are you doing? And then Konohamaru's like, that's my line. I'm supposed to say that. And he's like, gosh. And so Boruto's like, sorry. Do you have the thorn bulb? And Kawaki's kind of like, yeah, I got it. And Boruto's like, great. We're heading over back to Konoha now. So then we see a cut over to Kashin Koji and Ada talking to each other, and Ada's like, phew, that was a close call. It had me nervous there for a second. But now Boruto's alive and everything's good. That's a mission well done, you know what I'm saying? And Kashin Koji's like, this isn't anything that should be praised. Boruto just deviated from the path or ruined the future as far as we know, and everything's changed now. And Ada's like, yeah, but that's life, isn't it? Isn't everything we do change the future? And Kashin Koji's like, well, you're not going to like what you hear next, but since the future's changed, Mamushi's going to be making a move now, and he's coming after you. And Ada's like, gross. She's like, great, you know? So then we cut over to the Shinju in their hideout, and we see Jura kind of like sitting with Hidari, and they're kind of like, yeah, that was a great moment. And, you know, Jura's kind of like happy with himself, and Hidari's like, what are you smiling at? What's got you so happy or excited? And he's like, Kawaki, he gave me a compliment earlier. You know what I mean? He's just like, that was a good moment. And then Hidari's kind of like, I just learned this new phrase and I'm going to use it right now. He says, ick. Or he's like, that's a total ick. You know what I mean? And then the last panel or the last photo is Jura just kind of being like, huh? And then that's where the chapter ends. So, I mean, that was a weird way to end the chapter. I felt like the middle finger would have been a hilarious way to end the chapter, but, you know, obviously they need to go to Konohamaru and the others. And now with that, with chapter 24, the mission is over and things have ended on a clean slate. So now it's all up in the air what happens next. It's going to be really interesting. But we know that Ada's going to be the next target, which is going to be interesting as well. So, chapter 24, man, I feel like in terms of progressing the story, it did a great job. It got Kawaki into the action. It made them a team now, Boruto and Kawaki, and it gave Boruto the opportunity to calm down his karma, to deal with that, for him to save everybody else, and to end things on a clean slate, I suppose. Just like get everybody like, all right, everything's good now. You know, we're all okay now. And yeah, it also is like things are going on with like the future with Prescience, with Kashin Koji and stuff like that. So now everything's kind of, it's moving, it's progressing. Great action. Kawaki versus Jura, I thought it was really great. I don't think Jura really hit Kawaki, more so like they parried or they clashed, you know what I'm saying? Kawaki was the one that did the most damage, I think, but it was really cool to see him in action again. Actually in action, not just get one punched. And then, let's see what else was there. I think it was also, we learned a little bit more about Jura and like what his abilities are. We saw him use the vines or the branches to come out of the ground and save him and pull him away. Also revived him, so they don't have to teleport back to the hideout to do it. They could do it anywhere, I guess, or maybe it's just Jura himself. We also learned that he knows that Naruto is alive, or he was able to sense it out of Kawaki, which is crazy, but he learned about it somehow. And so that was new information. And in terms of like the world building for Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, it's kind of like we know that Mamushi's going after Ada next, and there are certain changes in Prescience. We just don't know what they are yet. So there are huge changes to the future and to Prescience and the visions and whatnot, simply because Boruto intervened. So we're going to see the aftermath in chapter 25 and so on and so forth. And then the ending wasn't as satisfying or wasn't as hype as some of the other chapters. Like last chapter, that was a hype ending. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that was a cool way to end it, where Kawaki was about to go up against Jura. This one ended with Jura's kind of like, huh? Facial expression? You know what I mean? It didn't have like a huge moment at the end of it, you know? So, you know, I don't think it was that hype of an ending, but everything else about the chapter was great. So, and it just completely ends the mission itself. So now everybody's going back to Konoha with the Thorn Bulb, and we'll see where that leads us. But until then, I'll give this chapter a 9.2. I thought it was better than the last chapter. I thought we learned more from Jura. I thought that the conversation between Kawaki and Jura was really good. I think his declaration, or like him telling he's going to kill Jura, is going to be really important later on. So that's going to be cool. And I think Jura's just learning more and more and more, you know, whether he wins or loses, or if they split or come back. So we'll have to see how the story progresses on, or what happens next with the Shinju, but we know Mamushi's coming up next. So overall, 9.2. Can't wait for chapter 25. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Yeah.